6 days ago, Jeremy Clarkson posted 2 sentences on the internet. So, bit of a year. Season 6 of Clarkson's Farm is currently in production. No press release, no statement from a publicist, no carefully worded update from Amazon's communications team. 2 sentences. And the people who had watched the Season 5 finale with their hands over their mouths understood immediately what those 2 sentences meant. He beat it. Now here is the question nobody is properly asking. The cancer is gone. The show is coming back. But what actually happens to Diddley Squat now? Because the farm, the brewery, the pub, and the television show that funds all of it are not standing still. And the answer to that question tells you something important. Not just about one man's recovery, about whether what he built in that Oxfordshire field over the last 5 years is something that lasts, or something that only exists because he does. To understand where this is going, you have to understand what happened. Season 5 of Clarkson's Farm opened with Jeremy in a hospital bed. Not at the end, at the beginning. 4 series of chaos and incompetence and Kaleb's barely concealed despair, and then this, a hospital bed. In the opening minutes, that alone told you the tone had shifted. The diagnosis came in May 2025, aggressive prostate cancer, caught early. He did not tell his team immediately. He carried it through harvest planning meetings, through tractor breakdowns, through the kind of daily grind that Diddley Squat demands, even when everything is going well, which it rarely does. And then, in one quiet conversation, filmed in the middle of an ordinary working day, he told Kaleb Cooper and land agent Charlie Ireland, "I've got cancer." Kaleb, visibly shaken, asked where. "Where it is of no concern of anybody. I've known since May." Later in the same episode, he filled in the detail. 10% of his prostate was affected. The cancer was aggressive. But the word that mattered most in that sentence was not aggressive. It was early. They had caught it early. Surgery followed. It landed, as he had feared it would, directly in the middle of harvest. He had prayed they could get the crops in first. It did not work out that way. By the final 2 episodes of Season 5, Clarkson was back in a hospital bed. He told viewers that some of his treatment had not gone to plan. He did not know yet whether the operation had worked. He would not know, he said, until November. And then he said the line that every major outlet in Britain carried within hours. What I wanted to say was, if this is all successful, I'll see you for Season 6, and if it isn't, I won't. Take care, everyone. That was June 17th, 2026. On June 19th, 2026, Jeremy Clarkson confirmed he is in remission, a PSA blood test, no signs of cancer. He called himself the world's luckiest man. He credited early detection with saving his life. And then, within the same announcement, he confirmed that Season 6 was already filming. 2 days. That is how long the public uncertainty lasted. For Clarkson, it had lasted over a year. Now here is the part that most people have not fully thought through. While the country was watching Season 5 and holding its breath over one man's health, Diddley Squat did not stop. The farm kept going. The brewery kept shipping. The pub kept serving. And behind all of it, the question that the cancer diagnosis made suddenly urgent was already there before the diagnosis, and it has not gone away now that the diagnosis has been resolved. What is Diddley Squat without Jeremy Clarkson? To answer that properly, you have to understand what Diddley Squat actually is, because most people still picture a farm, a shop, a television show. That description stopped being accurate about 3 years ago. The farm grows barley, raises beef, pork, and lamb, runs a shop that went from £44,000 in total assets in its first year to over £1.3 million, despite a planning authority that spent the better part of 3 series doing everything in its power to stop it from expanding. The shop now has confirmed planning permission. The car park that West Oxfordshire District Council refused 3 times got approved. Every enforcement notice, every refusal letter, every planning inspector's report became an episode of television. The council thought they were a regulatory authority. They were in practice unpaid scriptwriters for a program that got more famous every time they said no. But the shop is not the number that tells you what this actually became. The number is Hawkstone. In 2021, government farm subsidies were being cut. The farm needed new income, and Clarkson had barley. Good British barley grown at Diddley Squat. The same barley he could sell as a commodity to a processor for almost nothing. The same grain British farmers had been growing for centuries and getting squeezed on the price of for decades. He turned it into lager instead. It did not go smoothly. The first batch failed a blind taste test against a local brand. Embarrassing. Back to the brewery. Start again. They got it right. Launched it. It became the best-selling beer on Amazon almost immediately. Then in 2023, the cider had a packaging fault. The bottles were at risk of exploding. Clarkson issued a public recall. His beer brand was, technically, a safety hazard. Read that again. His beer brand was a safety hazard. Sales for the year to March 2025, 21.3 million pounds, up from 7.8 million the year before. Revenue nearly tripled. The Sunday Times ranked Hawkstone the 23rd fastest-growing private company in Britain. It won a Gold Award at the 2025 World Beer Awards, named England Country Winner. It is stocked in Waitrose, in Sainsbury's, in Morrison's, served in over 2,000 pubs across the UK. In 2025, it became available in every Five Guys restaurant in Britain. Carlsberg reportedly made a private approach with a £50 million offer. Clarkson declined within 24 hours. Because Carlsberg and every other large drinks company that has presumably had the same thought cannot buy Hawkstone without destroying what Hawkstone actually is. The barley comes from Clarkson's fields. The story comes from the television show. The brand is inseparable from the man, the farm, the program, and that specific corner of Oxfordshire. Without the provenance, without the supply chain viewers have watched being built on screen over 5 series, Hawkstone is just another lager with a famous face on the label. The big breweries operate on scale. Hawkstone operates on story. And in 2026, story is worth considerably more than scale. Then there is the Farmer's Dog, a former roadside pub called the Windmill, sitting on 5 acres near Burford. Clarkson bought it for under £1 million, renamed it, renovated it, and filmed the entire chaotic process for Season 4. Opened August 2024. 140 employees on day 1. Hundreds queued for hours. A 360-space car park had to be built in a nearby field just to handle the demand. Here is what he did with the menu that nobody in the British hospitality industry had attempted at any comparable scale. 100% British ingredients. Not mostly British. Not British where possible. Every single thing on the plate. The beef, the pork, the lamb, the vegetables, the beer, the spirits, even the cooking oil. From British farms. No Coca-Cola, no avocados, no black pepper unless it is grown in this country, which it cannot be, so there is no black pepper. A Michelin-starred chef called it one of the most genuinely committed supply chain operations he had seen. The pub loses money on food with something approaching aristocratic indifference to the mathematics. It recovers that loss entirely on Hawkstone Lager, where every penny of margin is retained. What looks like an expensive eccentricity is, when examined carefully, a loss leader with a business plan. The pub exists to showcase British farming, to sell Hawkstone at full margin to customers who arrive for the beef and leave having bought the beer, and to provide a permanent filming location for future series of Clarkson's Farm. Because a pub on your land is, among other things, a set with a license to trade. Nobody leaves without spending money on something. That is not an accident. Make sure you hit the subscribe button and tap the notification bell. It takes 1 second and it genuinely helps. Now here is the thing that the cancer diagnosis made everyone suddenly think about, and that the remission has not actually resolved. What depends on Clarkson personally and what does not. Hawkstone Brewery operates as a separate legal entity, separate land, separate planning permission. Its revenue, all 21.3 million of it, does not require a single further episode of Clarkson's Farm to ever be filmed. The Farmer's Dog operates on its own footing. Its staff, its supply chain, its customers do not disappear if the television show pauses. What does depend heavily on Clarkson is the farm itself, the agricultural operation, the show that films it. And by Clarkson's own admission in Season 5, the farm depends on the television income to survive. He said it plainly. The land needs the show, and the show needs him well. That is the vulnerability the cancer diagnosis put into the sharpest possible focus. And it is the vulnerability that the remission has, for now, answered. But there is someone else in this story who does not get enough credit for what he actually does. Kaleb Cooper was 21 years old when Clarkson took over Diddley Squat. Born in Chipping Norton, raised farming. He had been working that land before Clarkson had ever set foot on it. He knew every field, every crop, every problem before it became a disaster. He was also, quite evidently, entirely unimpressed by Jeremy Clarkson. Not as a performance, not as a comic choice for television. Simply because a man who genuinely understands farming does not naturally find himself in awe of a man who is learning it very slowly and very publicly. Britain, it turned out, was absolutely delighted by this. What followed across 5 series was essentially a young farming expert explaining basic agricultural reality to a middle-aged television presenter, with the barely concealed exasperation of someone who has been asked the same self-evident question 17 times before lunch. Kaleb did not shout. He did not lecture. He looked at Clarkson with something that moved, depending on the day, between pity and genuine despair, and delivered corrections that in any other professional context would have ended the working relationship on the first morning. His production company now holds assets approaching $1 million. He has written 2 books, done a nationwide live tour that sells out. His name on a product carries genuine commercial weight. And Amazon has commissioned a brand new solo series, Kaleb Down Under, following him to Australia to explore farming on a different continent entirely. When someone once suggested Clarkson should hand Diddley Squat to Kaleb when he eventually steps back, Kaleb's response was immediate. What? Are you joking? No way. I don't want anything I haven't earned myself. That is the man who has been running the actual farming operation while Clarkson was in hospital. Not as a replacement, as what he has always been. The person who knows what the land needs and what happens if you get it wrong. Now here is what is not resolved, and this matters because the remission does not make any of it go away. From April 6, 2026, new inheritance tax rules apply to farming land in Britain. Tax kicks in above a £2.5 million threshold on agricultural estates. For a working farm that has been in a family for 3 generations, that can mean selling land just to cover the bill when a parent dies. Clarkson led between 15 and 20,000 farmers to Westminster to protest the original £1 million limit. The government raised it to £2.5 million. Clarkson's response was direct. Half the farmers who would have paid under the £1 million arrangement will still have to pay under the new one. He wrote in his Times column that his own farm, 1,000 acres, barely breaks even. If he had to sell a third of it to pay the tax, it would stop breaking even and start making a loss. That fight is not finished. There is also the bovine TB outbreak. In July 2025, Clarkson announced on social media that TB had been detected in cattle at Diddley Squat. He described everyone involved as absolutely devastated. One of the infected animals was pregnant with twins. The consequences of a TB outbreak on a working farm are not resolved quickly. They play out over months. That storyline will almost certainly be part of Season 6. And then there is this. Clarkson is 66. He has had a cancer diagnosis, surgery, a complicated recovery, and a year that by his own description was a bit of a year. The farm he bought in 2008 as somewhere to shoot pheasants has become something he clearly never planned for and cannot walk away from. What happens to Diddley Squat in the long run, not because of illness, but because of time, is a question the remission has delayed, not answered. Season 6 is in production, expected summer 2027. 8 episodes if the schedule holds. What that season will document is something no television writer could have invented. A man farming after cancer. A man who knows, more clearly than most, how close the whole thing came to ending. And a farm that kept going while he was in hospital, because the people he built it with knew what they were doing long before he arrived. The barley nobody wanted became beer that Sainsbury's pays a premium to stock. The beef that could not get a fair price from a supermarket buyer now sells out of a pub where people drive 2 hours and queue for a table. The potatoes that rotted in a barn in 2019 became the story that made a country remember what British food was supposed to feel like. And the man who built all of it, who told 10 million people he might not see them again, just told them he's back. So yes, the cancer battle is over. Diddley Squat is very much still standing. One more thing before you go. If this video reminded you to book a prostate check you have been putting off, do it. Gerald Cooper, the farmhand who has worked at Diddley Squat for over 50 years, was diagnosed with prostate cancer in Season 3 of this show. He is cancer-free today because his was caught and treated. Clarkson's own cancer was described as aggressive. He is in remission because it was caught early. A PSA blood test is a simple thing to arrange and the easiest thing in the world to keep putting off. These two men on the same farm with the same disease are both still here because someone caught it in time. Now drop a comment below. Is Diddley Squat bigger than Clarkson now, or does the whole thing fall apart without him? Two options. Tell us below.